Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media. The woman paused at the trailhead, reading the warning sign posted there. She knew there had been an attack on this trail a while ago, but that there hadn't been much in the news about it since. Staring down the trail, she watched as a man pedaled his bicycle along it, seeming to disregard the warning sign. Taking the bicyclist's presence as a green light, the woman began jogging in the same direction, her dog bouncing along beside her. After only a few minutes, she noticed her dog at full alert in the trail. Following his gaze, she saw two adorable brown bear cubs wrestling in the trail, then they stopped. The cubs stared at her for a few moments before they began trotting toward her. The woman's mind raced as she turned to run back up the trail, hoping the cubs would lose interest in her. After rounding a blind corner, she hid behind a log and watched the cubs run past her. Suddenly, brush began breaking behind the woman, and she knew she'd found the cubs' mother. The woman watched as the sow emerged on the trail and lifted her nose to the breeze. A flip switched in the bear, and it closed in on her with terrifying speed. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. This is the third installment of 4 episodes, which will discuss bear attacks around Anchorage, Alaska in the summer of 2008. Although a poor salmon run had plagued the area streams, the forests of fir, spruce, birch, and cottonwood trees still towered over dense underbrush of alder, devil's club, and willow. An ample crop of blueberry and wild cranberry flourished, but for hungry brown bears, nothing could replace the caloric windfall of the salmon run. Along Anchorage's eastern boundary, the Chugach Mountains press right into town. The Chugach State Park borders the municipal wilderness park known as the Far North Bicentennial Park, featuring a meandering trail system that follows creeks and winds through the forest. From a bear's perspective, there's no difference between a forest in the wilderness and a forest in the city until they begin to run into people, or people begin to run into them. Moose are common in the area, though caribou and Dall's sheep tend to occupy more remote regions. Common predators in this area include bobcats, the occasional cougar, wolves, black bears, and deadliest of all, hungry and dangerous brown bears. On August 8, 2008, 51-year-old Clivia Feliz was determined to find a forest trail as a setting for her daily jog with her border collie Sky. She had aimed to run a different trail that day, but discovered a sow black bear with 2 cubs had been spotted there. Heeding that warning, she traveled to the trailhead leading to Rover's Run in the Far North Park trail system. Now, Clivia was a marathon runner and very fitness-oriented. By trade, she was a licensed and experienced massage therapist, but running in the forested trails near town was most enjoyable to her and Sky. I could find no source indicating Clivia packed bear spray on her route on this day. It is assumed she carried neither and likely relied on local information and the presence of other people along the trails as an indicator of safety. Upon arriving at the trailhead of Rover's Run, Clivia observed a warning sign indicating a bear attack had occurred there recently. It had been 6 weeks since 15-year-old Petra Davis had been mauled while participating in a 24-hour bicycle ride, but the incident wasn't dominating the press lately. Clivia watched a man on a bicycle ride past her and down the trail she wanted to run without heeding the warning sign posted. Taking this as a cue, she may have thought that the authorities had forgotten to remove the warning sign and assumed it was safe. It is possible that while Clivia jogged down the trail, the recent spate of bear attacks and incidents ran through her mind. Within a half a mile of Rover's Run trail, there had been at least 4 run-ins with a sow grizzly and her 2 cubs of this year. The information from the incidents provided enough detail to authorities that they knew one of the cubs had a white collar of fur ringing its neck. This unique feature offered irrefutable evidence to authorities whenever the sow and cubs were involved in an incident. Clivia and Sky had jogged about 800 feet down Rover's Run trail when the dog's ears perked straight up and he stared down the trail. Clivia took his signal as a warning and slowed her pace as she examined the trail ahead. Wrestling in the middle of the trail, she saw 2 brown bear cubs, oblivious of her presence. Now most people turn and run in terror, given that the protective sow could be anywhere near the cubs. Clivia was very disciplined in her reaction to the cubs as she slowly turned and retreated back up the trail. Having lived in bear country for well over a decade, she knew a panicked retreat may end in disaster. At a distance of the cubs from only 30 feet, Clivia watched as they stopped wrestling and began sniffing the ground and looking in her direction. She continued a slow retreat, hoping to put some distance between them, but was alarmed to see the cubs following her. Utilizing the forest as cover, Clivia began jogging once the cubs were out of sight. To her horror, she glanced back to see the cubs still following her, likely out of curiosity more than anything. Hoping that if she disappeared, the cubs would lose interest, Clivia veered off the trail a few yards to obscure her location. Then Clivia heard the noise she dreaded most, the sound of the sow huffing and trotting along behind her cubs. Clivia found a pile of dead trees and quickly lay down behind them as she continued to watch the trail. Pursuing their interest in her, the cubs trotted right past her, oblivious to where she'd gone. But the sow, well, she was another story entirely. Clivia listened as the sow veered from the trail and crashed through the brush around her. After the sow re-emerged on the trail, Clivia watched as her sensitive nose lifted to sample something on the breeze. Within an instant, the sow knew Clivia's exact location and closed in on her with astonishing speed. Clivia heard no growling as the sow approached her. There was no popping of jaws, but a series of loud huffs as the bear lunged at the woman's head. Lifting her arm, Clivia hoped to shield her neck and head from the bear's jaws. The enraged sow bit onto Clivia's arm and thrashed it back and forth before attacking Clivia on the ground. The sow stood on top of her with both paws, pressing the woman's head and shoulders into the duff. For several seconds, the bear stared at Clivia, huffing in disdain at her presence. The woman tried not to move, but knew she had to protect her organs. She pulled her legs up to her abdomen, hoping the bear wouldn't notice the protective motion. But the sow did notice, and with one big huff, she opened her mouth wide and closed her jaws on Clivia's rib cage. Hearing her ribs cracking under the pressure of the bite, Clivia feared for her life as she screamed for help. Pressing Clivia to the ground, the sow imparted a few more bites, and then departed in the direction of her cubs. In only a few seconds, the angry sow had bitten Clivia's arm so severely that it hung uselessly and had crushed her ribs. She had deep puncture wounds on her head and neck as well, but somehow mustered the strength to regain her feet after a few minutes. Amazingly, Clivia stumbled back down the trailhead to a nearby road. Obviously in distress, bleeding, and still very frightened, she flagged down a passing vehicle to rescue herself. Before rushing Clivia to the emergency room, Skye reappeared from the brush, bearing no injuries. After admittance to the emergency room, doctors determined that the bite to her arm had crushed her brachial artery and damaged her brachial nerve. The bite to her rib cage had cracked 4 ribs and partially collapsed one of her lungs. Deep puncture wounds pierced the flesh of her neck and head. Some damage done during the attack was repaired during emergency surgery, but a full recovery would take some time. Now certain that the sow and her cubs were behaving too aggressively toward human presence, wildlife officials organized a search of the 4,000-acre park. Utilizing DNA evidence from saliva gathered from Clivia's wounds and clothing, they compared it to any known sample. A problem bear thought to have possibly been the culprit was shot and killed in the coming days, but was found to have no involvement in Clivia's attack. After an extensive search, the sow was killed by a marksman on August 19th, and her cubs scattered into the forest, now minus their lone protector and provider. One of the cubs was located quickly, but the other raided garbage cans around the Stuck-Again Heights neighborhood. Residents there provided fruit and dog food to the cub in hopes of capturing it, but the little bear was wily and eluded attempts for a few weeks. Wildlife officials noticed solitary cub tracks in the mud along Rover's run as the lone cub followed its mother's route in search of her. A couple who owned a house in the neighborhood looked out their window one day and saw the cub munching berries near their yard. Utilizing their dog kennel outside, they baited it with cooked salmon, something the cub found irresistible. With both cubs now in custody, wildlife officials housed them temporarily at the zoo until a suitable home could be arranged in a zoo likely in the Midwestern USA. Dubbing the aggressive little sow Rosie and her mild-mannered brother Rover, officials watched as the cubs snuggled and reunited in their safe environment. After DNA evidence was analyzed, the sow was determined to be uninvolved in Petra Davis's attack, but the results for Feliz's attack were still pending. The unique white collar markings of one of the cubs removed any doubt of her involvement in the minds of authorities. Regarding the sow's motives in its pursuit and attack on Feliz, there are several factors involved. A predatory attack is ruled out. Although the bear did pursue Clivia over an extended route, it did not kill and cache her corpse for consumption. As soon as it had disabled a potential threat to herself and her cubs, she departed, indicating a defensive attack motivated by a protective instinct for her cubs. Speaking of cubs, our Cub Tier membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to our episodes, notes, and photos. And the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. The state of Alaska hosts around 30,000 brown bears over its vast territory, with bears distributed irregularly based on food source availability, environmental pressures, and viable habitat. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Do you think Sky's alertness prevented a more serious attack on Clivia? Do you think seeking shelter up a tree would have prevented the sow's attack on her, or would the cubs have climbed up there as well? Is Clivia a tough person, or did she simply do what she had to do to save her own life? I think she's very clever and brave. I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it. Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.